Bar chords. Oh God, they're so painful. You know, they don't have to be that painful. But I had a time when I was studying classical guitar in college, and I had a piece I was learning that was nothing but bar chords. And not only was it all bar chords, it was finger-picked bar chords. And so every note had to come out clearly. It had a lot of things like every note had to come out clearly because I was picking every single string. It had chords like A minor, barred. Every single note had to come out. And I wound up starting to having some problems with my hand, with numbness and weakness, and I was developing carpal tunnel syndrome. And I went to a master class, and the guy who was leading it had had 6 surgeries for carpal tunnel and couldn't play guitar anymore. I would not call those particularly successful surgeries. I didn't want to have surgery. It really scared me. So I went home and I retaught myself how to play bar chords. Now, before we even talk about that, I should say, I know now that the guitar that I had was very difficult to play because I played someone else's at some point in the semester and I went, hey, this isn't fair. Your guitar is super easy to play and mine is like breaking my hand. So it is important to make sure that you have a good playing guitar. And if you have a teacher, please ask them to play your guitar for a minute, play some bar chords, and also to look and make sure that the action, which is this distance between the fretboard and the strings, is not way the Sam Hill up here, because that's what makes it really hard to play. There are a few things that make it hard to play, but that's one of them. Also, you should not use hard tension strings unless you have very strong hands and you're playing outside, unamplified for a concert audience and you need to be heard. That'd be the only reason in my book to be playing hard tension strings on a classical guitar. This is not a classical guitar. This is a steel string that we're using today that we're going to talk about bar chords. So there's several things that I learned in that episode of nearly losing my ability to use my left hand at all because I was using it improperly. And this is what I taught myself in how to replay. And learning this piece by Villalobos that had nothing but bar chords just about through the whole thing. Well, it's all about work smarter, not harder, which is easy to say, but what does that mean when we're talking about bar chords? Let's look at the A minor. And there's one reason that I like A minor up here as a starting point. I like to start bar chords on the 5th fret, not way back here on the 1st fret. The string tension at the 1st fret is harder than any other place on the fretboard. This is the hardest, most difficult place to learn bar chords. And on top of that, the frets are further apart down here. So again, making it the hardest place to play bar chords. So we're going to start up here in the 5th fret, which is kind of a sweet spot because once you start getting up into 7, then things sort of get a little cramped. So 5 is this nice sweet spot to learn these things. In fact, let's start with an A major. You may not know this, but A major is just E major moved up and then barred. I moved everything up 1 fret. Everything that was on 2 is now on 3. Everything that was on 1, which is just 1 finger, is now on 2. And everything that was 0 is now 1. Okay, but we're not going to study it there. We're going to keep moving it up. Move everything up, take the whole shape, move it up another fret. Now we have F sharp. Move it up another fret. Now we have G. Move it up another fret. We have G sharp, also known as A flat. And move it up here. And we have A. Now, how do we get that nice, clear A? Well, it's not magic, and it's not by having strong hands because I don't have strong hands. My hands are weak. It's something that runs in my family. I do have flexible hands and I can work with that. Here's a secret about bar chords that a lot of people either won't tell you or don't know. They probably don't know. You don't need to first get all 6 strings to come out clearly and then add the other fingers. The guitar only hears whichever fingers are closest to the sound hole. So these 3 strings are already covered by other fingers. So the bar only needs to cover this string, and this string. 6, 2, and 1. So you don't need to turn your finger into a flat bar like a piece of iron or something, because it's never going to be shaped that way. It's not. It's a finger. It's not a pencil. It's a finger. It has bones. It has squishy places. It has curves. That's what we're working with here. But I only need to get these 3 strings to come out clearly. So that's the first secret. The next secret is, in order to get those to come out clearly, there's a couple things you can do. And what I do is I roll my finger backwards a little bit. So I'm not trying to do it like this, like straight on. That's not a good way to do it, because your finger is squishy, especially that first joint there is squishy. So we're not going straight on attacking it. You can put your finger straight on the 6th fret and then roll back just a little bit. I'm going to exaggerate so you can see what I'm doing, what I mean by roll back. But don't roll back that far, you'll hurt yourself. So roll back just a little bit. And then you're just behind, as close up to the fret as possible. When you want to do it back here, you have to work a lot harder. Get up close, almost on top of the fret, and roll back just a smidge. And then all I got to do is make sure that the 6th string, 2nd string, and 1st string come out clearly, because all these other fingers are going to be covering the other 3 strings. And if it's not coming out clearly, you can adjust by moving your finger up just a smidge or down just a smidge, so that a bony part of your finger is hitting strings 2 and 1 and not a squishy part. If you get a squishy part on 2 and 1, you got to push a lot harder. So use those bony parts to your advantage. So trick 1, get up close to the fret. Trick 2, roll back just a smidge. Trick 3, move your finger either up a smidge, and I'm talking about a 1/16 of an inch, or down just a smidge until bony parts are hitting these 2 strings. And let these other fingers, tip 4, let these other fingers take care of these strings. All right, I actually could stick a 1/4 in there, right there where my finger is right there. It's not pushing those strings. Don't need to, because these are pushing them. And that, my friends, is the secret to making a good bar chord. Now, if you want to make it A minor, you do have to cover the 3rd string with that 1st finger, and I may have to adjust a little bit. My sad chord. And 7th chord, now I've got to get 6th string. It's got a buzzy, so I'm going to move my finger a little bit. There we go, that's better. And that's it. That's all my secrets, I think, for making great bar chords. But you can do it. Now, when you go to the 5th string, the shape is different. This is like we've taken an A minor, swapped all the fingers around, and move everything up 1 fret. The 2s become 3s, the 1 becomes a 2, and the 0s become 1. But again, move it up to the 5th fret to practice it. Much less painful. And I should mention, your thumb should be back here. Your thumb should not be like this. Now you're fighting yourself if your thumb's back this way. And the thumb should not be sticking up, showing its head like that either, because now you've got your hand all mashed up fighting itself. So the best place for that left hand thumb is right behind your fingers in the middle of the neck. That's really important. Now with the 5th string, I'm only having to cover 2 strings with my bar. The 5th string and the 1st string. That's it. Everything else is covered by these 3 fingers. And again, I can stick a guitar pick in there. There's a total curve in my finger. I'm not trying to turn it into a pencil. I'm not trying to turn it into a lead pipe. It's a finger. And I'm just letting it be curvy, because that's what it does, and make sure that the joint hits, that bony part hits where the string is. Not a squishy part, not that squishy part, not that squishy part, not that squishy part, but the bony part hits on the 1st string. Now, what if I have to make a major chord, like D major up here? And maybe your fingers won't all cram in there. I got small fingers. I can cram in 2, 3, 4. Or maybe you can't make that stretch between the 1 and the 2. Well, you can flatten out that finger, and then I'm actually helping it with my 2nd finger. If your finger will make the stretch, I'm actually helping my 3rd finger by pushing with my 2nd finger. A couple more tips on making a bar chord. Try not to have your shoulder all hiked up. That's not going to help things. So try to drop your shoulder so you can get up underneath that and not have too much of you're fighting yourself. So try to relax the shoulder. And you may find that you need to change the angle of the guitar neck as well. So if it's way down, pointed way down towards the floor, so that you're like this, that's also going to make it harder. So you may find it helpful to have the guitar a little more pointed upwards. That's why a lot of these jazz guys hold their guitar way up here, because they're doing difficult chords and they're trying to make it as easy as possible. And you see how the wrist isn't nearly as broken. The more the guitar is down like this, the more there's a break in the wrist. So if you angle the guitar neck up a little bit and drop that shoulder down, get a little more natural feel with those bar chords. Oh yeah, and remember, practice them up here, up the neck. All right, those are my favorite tips for helping make great bar chords with less pain and more beautiful notes. If you have questions or comments, please put them below. And if this was at all helpful, please hit like. And if you'd like to hear more guitar tips, subscribe. Happy picking.